Hello everybody, welcome back. This is going to be another episode of Total War Warhammer Multiplayer Battles. I'm the Strategy Professor. So this is going to be my first Vampire video on patch 1.2, so I'm just going to break down some of the strategic considerations at the very beginning, and then we will move on to the game itself. And I always put the game start timer in the description, so if you want to skip some of the preamble, you can just go straight to the fight if you want. But I think a lot of people would be interested in, just my thoughts on the current meta and what's going on in 1.2. Okay, so this is the army that I've come up with for now. There is some versatility for sure with the vampire counts, but it's one of the more limited factions, I think, in terms of flexibility. Because a lot of their units just are outshined by their other units, so there's not enough specific niche units that are good. And some of the things just cost too much. So for example, let's take a look here. So all of these, with the exception of perhaps the Black Knights, I mean, I could perhaps consider running 2 Black Knights instead of the Blood Knights. The problem is the Blood Knights are just so good, they outshine everything because they're anti-large. They're going to beat up any other large units in the game with the exception of maybe the Demigryph Knights, but Demigryph Knights are becoming pretty rare in Empire after they've nerfed them a few times. These, I don't think, I mean, they're cavalry, they have almost no charge. Like, yes, they do, like, fire damage and things, but theirs is just way too much. This is way too much. Like, that's good, but that should really be closer to, like, 1,000, maybe even 900. Like, it's just too overcosted. And yeah, the same thing with the race. Like, these are good. They're good, but they just cost too much for what they are. I feel like the Graveguard are very good. Like they're a good, solid, aggressively priced for 750. So that's why we have 3 of them in our army. They're great for just tearing up infantry lines. The Graveguard are great weapons. I mean, they are good, but I don't think they're worth the additional 2 costs. I mean, yeah, tearing through armor is good, but you need to think of what your unit, what their role is. Not every single unit needs to be designed to do a lot of damage. And dominate the fight, right? Like sometimes you just need to hold the line and just put up a good fight against other things. So that's really what we want with our line design here. We just have zombies that can kind of hold up the line. The Graveguard are actually going to be able to do pretty decent against most other infantry. And then we've saved a lot of money for the Blood Knights. I'm going to try out 2 of them. It's definitely on the expensive side, but they are so good. They're so versatile, fast. They just beat other cavalry. There's just not that much that beats them, I don't think, in a heads-up fight. They have heavy armor. They're one of the best units in the whole game. But they're very expensive, so I just want 2 of them, just to make sure we still have a line here. We're not going to get overrun. We have 2 of those. Cryptors, very, very good. They have been nerfed in the last couple of patches. So they're still good. They still have regeneration. They still have poison attacks, so we want that for the utility. These would be great for wrapping up lords in case they have lords that are spamming potions, which is pretty common. Those poison attacks will help bring them down to size a little bit, and the regeneration, so it lets you kind of sit there and go toe-to-toe with them for a while. Alternatively, you can just tie them up with zombies, and that'll keep them busy for a couple of minutes. And then our lord selection. So I have done what a few viewers have suggested, and I've tried to limit myself to 3. 3 heroes. So you can have up to 4, and I suggest if you're actually trying to go for a win, you need to figure out with each faction which hero has the potions and get, a lot of that hero. You want to use all 4 heroes in this current meta. Heroes were very bad in the last couple of patches for the most part, but they have repriced them and added in these potions, and this is the first video of mine that you've watched, these are the potions, the blue and the red. And this refills almost an entire health bar, and this refills a very large chunk of your health bar, and they only cost 73 gold and 72 gold respectively. So that's basically almost like you're buying an additional lord for 72 or 73. So you have to do it. Like, you have to do it if you're trying to play competitively. If you're trying to actually win the game, you have to have that. I don't think it's abusive. There is counterplay. As I explained, poison. Lots of factions have poison. Anything that's bonus versus large or bonus versus infantry, very good against lords, depending on the lord. These can't have mounts, so I don't even know if they count as infantry. They probably do. But either way, there's definitely counterplay. You don't have to kill them either. Like, that's the thing. Just because there's a hero doesn't mean you have to kill it. Like, just tie it up with zombies and go kill the rest of the army, and then you will beat the hero at the end of the day. So I think people just have to adjust a lot of their strategy and priorities to dealing with these heroes. I like the meta, but I understand critiques of it too, so I'm trying to limit it to 3 instead of 4. I might be able to dial it back further if I have a lot of success with the vampire counts, we'll see. But I've chosen these. The vampire counts actually have 2 that have potions, but their lord does not have potions. In fact, he can't get any items, which is curious. And the vampires can't. I was really hoping the vampires would have it, but they can't get anything that's worthwhile. So, anyway, so all we're doing with the spells, we're just going to get Invocation of Nehek here. That's our healing spell. We're just going to spam that throughout the match. Very powerful. We're going to get the Hunger just for some replenishment. This other stuff is just too expensive for what it does. And we're going to get the Hellsteed because it's the flying mount. It's really fast, and it's a lot cheaper than this one. This one, you're basically paying 200, and you're sacrificing 20 speed, and it looks like 10 armor and a shield in exchange for a higher charge bonus. And weapon strength. Also, you're losing a lot of melee attack by getting that. Like, almost 20. 18 melee attack. So, and you get this debuff like Swarm of Flies. It gives everybody -8 to hit, which is really good. But for an extra 200 gold, I'm not totally sold on it. I mean, that's another pack of zombies I could have. I guess I could get rid of a pack of zombies and get that if I want. But I'm just going to try the Hellsteed out. I just want to be very fast, be very mobile. And I think it fits that kind of playstyle. Because you need to have some kind of flying unit so you can fly around and, you know, deal with charges and things like that. Okay, and so both of these have potions. I just went with this guy. He's a little bit on the cheap side. I just went ahead and got 1 steed for him. Nothing else, just steed and potions. So he's a really good option. Banshees are a little bit more. They don't have a mount, but they cause terror, which is very nice in a lot of situations. And they do magic damage, which means that's going to be full penetration. That's 280 damage to the face on almost any enemy. So this guy looks like he does more damage, but he really only has 150 penetration. So a lot of his normal damage is going to get mitigated. So, you know, even if 50% of his damage gets mitigated, these would still potentially deal more. Also, they're very easy because they're ethereal to kind of slip in and out of fights. They still do get some unit collision, but in my experience, and I don't have any hard data to back this up, it seems like it's easier to back them out of fights. Like they can just slip through units a little bit easier. I'm not really sure how that works, but that's just my experience on the campaign map. That's how it seems. And they do have lower leadership, so that's definitely a consideration. So you don't want them to get too terribly hurt. But they do have massive physical resistance, cause terror, relatively fast. Wow, they're faster than I thought they were. Okay, so they're very fast. I mean, it's almost like they have a mount. They don't have a huge charge bonus, but I'm pretty much just getting them for the utility of having terror, and being able to get in and out of melee scrums to cycle charges a little bit faster, or to get to different situations. I just want to just constantly run around with them and just spread terror and disruption to everybody. So we want a terror unit to do that, and I think this is good. It's also possible you could run Cairn Wraiths for the terror instead. Does this big mount cause terror? Okay, the big mount does cause terror, so that's another buff that the big mount would have. Does the normal mount cause terror? Normal mount does not cause terror. So that would be a buff of the larger mount, is you would also get terror. So maybe it is worth it. Whatever. You know what? I'm just gonna get the big mount. There we go. Just because I just realized it causes terror, and I am very interested in causing terror. And the Swarm of Flies is good. -8 melee attack. So I think it's solid. I think it's solid. We'll run with this. You do lose some of the things that I said, but you do have a charge bonus that makes it good for cycling. You do cause more armor-piercing damage, but most importantly, oh, it has scaly skin. Does that have scaly skin? Okay, the other one does not have scaly skin, I don't think. Let me see. No. Okay, so this one has scaly skin also, which means you get an extra 25% missile resistance. So that's probably worth it. You get scaly skin, you get terror causing, you get heavier armor penetration, you get bigger charge bonus. You definitely lose armor, you lose a shield, and you lose some melee attack. So he's not great if you just stick in a fight and fight with him, but if you cycle charges, it's good. And this is a very good debuff if you run right in the middle of a huge fight. So, and you want to be in the middle. You want your units clustered as vampire counts so that when you cast your Nehek overcasted, then it's going to be able to heal all of your important units. Okay, so I think I about covered it. We have 3 units to cause terror. We've got some pretty good mobility on 4 units. 6 units actually, if you include these. These are pretty mobile too. So our game plan is just to kind of hold the line with zombies, stall them, a little bit more staying power on the line with the Grave Guard, and then just try to flank around and hit them in the back with the Blood Knights, Crypt Horrors, and these things. So let's go ahead and get into a fight here. Save this. And so I'm trying to bargain with you. If you don't like the Potion Lord meta, I've dropped it down to 3 instead of 4. If I start winning some more, I'll drop it down to 2, and I'll just scale it back and see how it goes. But just for the record, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. I'm pretty sure a pretty major disadvantage by not getting those potions. Okay. Because they're so cheap. I mean, you're basically buying a second Lord or an additional Lord for like 70 gold, and that's so cost efficient. So in effect, if you don't get 4 lords, if you do 3 instead of me, and they do 4 lords with the potions, then I'm spotting them an extra 800 to 1,000 gold every time I do that. So if I run 2 lords instead of 4, then I'm spotting them, 1,600 to 2,000 gold because of its effectiveness. Now, yes, you're not going to use it when you're at like 0 health, so maybe half of that number, right? So if you pop a potion at half health, something like that. But either way, you're spotting them a lot of gold by not using those potions effectively. So if you run 2 lords, then that would be, somewhere around like maybe 1,000, 1,200 gold. I mean, it all depends. Those are very wonky, like, ballpark estimate numbers, but you're giving them, somewhere in the neighborhood of at least a 10% army effectiveness advantage by not doing that. Just in a very abstract terms. So I don't play a lot of these games. I mean, sometimes people will, sit there and choose different factions or, try to fake out their opponent. I'm really glad that you can't switch at the last 10 seconds and that it switches it back. Okay, so against Beastmen, I'm going to be against large things like Minotaurs. I think these should beat Minotaurs. But the problem is they're also going to be running anti-large things. They're probably going to be running the anti-large Minotaurs. See what they have. They have Minotaurs, Giants, Cygors. These are probably not going to be good here because they're going to have anti-large ready for the Blood Knights. So maybe I just want Skeleton Spearmen here. I mean, they're not amazing at versus large units, but they're okay. 13 versus large. They're very cost effective. Very cheap. Okay, so I'm going to run 4 Skeleton Spearmen instead of the Crypt Horrors. Oh, gosh. Well... Okay, what are the... This might change the calculus a little bit, because he just switched over to Bretonnia. What's the anti-large they have? So they could have Halberdiers. I don't think their cavalry units deal bonus versus large. So I'm okay with these versus their cavalry. So maybe I just want a stronger front line then to deal with their spearmen or halberdiers. These should beat both halberdiers and spearmen pretty handily. Do that. How much is an upgrade here? So I could get 2 upgrades. Anything else that I want? I could get a slippery. Maybe I want a slippery. It doesn't replenish vigor, though, is a problem. It's just speed and acceleration. That's probably not worth it. I could get another zombie, maybe. I'm just trying to envision what he's going to have. This might be too much invested in this Graveguard. I mean, I suspect he's going to have a lot of spears and a lot of men-at-arms. Now, he could have some cavalry as well, so maybe I get rid of one of these and pick up 2 spearmen. I mean, these will beat their cavalry, but the problem is if they just have like an overwhelming number of cavalry, that could be an issue. Yeah, maybe I just play it safe and just go for 2 of these. This should still give us domination, because they don't have a good, I mean, the Banshees will be good against cavalry. These are good against cavalry. These are all pretty good against cavalry. Maybe I just don't worry about cav. Because if I were him, I would be thinking that the undead player is going to be running Blood Knights. So I need to have lots of anti-large, and I would translate that into a lot of halberdiers, probably missile units, things like that. So maybe I do just go for the 7 Graveguard. Just not even worry about the cavalry, because I think these will be able to beat the daylights out of their cavalry for the most part. And the Banshees can help with that, as can he. This should just completely crack their front line. Alright, so let's go ahead and upgrade these. I guess that's what I'll do. Sneak a zombie upgrade in there. Yeah, we'll go with this. I like this composition. This should let me run up their line, because they don't have any swordsmen, I don't think, with Bretonnia. We can also just use the zombies to soak a cavalry charge. And then run in there with our Blood Knights. So he may have a lot of paladins on foot as well. That's what I did. I think 3 paladins on foot. So if he has that, then the Graveguard are going to be great at taking down enemy hero paladins. It's kind of my front line here. I think. I kind of want to run up this way. Now that's going to limit my options in terms of flanking. But I'm going to get some cover from the trees so that if he has artillery, it's not going to be as devastating. I don't really want to be that compact, though. I want to be the one kind of flanking around. I don't really know. Like, if he has artillery, though, I'm just going to get bombarded there. Let's not do that. Let's just stay in the middle here. Alright, we'll make these our 3 group, and we'll make this little brigade our 2 group. Or make them 9. Make them 9. Okay, let's make these our 2 group. So that way I know what's expendable, the zombies, and I can just send them up there first. And these Graveguards have the shields too, so if they have a lot of missile units, they're going to be very good against missile units with heavy armor and silver shields. So. Let's keep the Blood Knights on different sides here. I'll not show that until we kind of see what he's working with. Maybe I should put one of them on 4, that way I can bounce back and forth. Okay, let's keep them near the back here. And there's an argument for having these on the flanks too. Let's try this out. Get 1 horror unit on each side. I'll keep this guy in the middle. We'll make them part of group 4. Them part of group 3. We just have like 2 flanking squads here. Let's see what he has. Put this up near the very front. Okay, massive. Oh, he just went all Pegasus. Huh. Interesting. Nice. This is pretty cheesy. Okay. I do like Pegasus Knights. This is taking it to another level. Okay, so I deliberately want to walk with these. He's probably seen this. So, having Spearmen would have been great here. These Blood Knights are going to do some work against those Pegasus, though, I think. So all I have to do... Now, this is going to be pretty annoying, because he's just going to, like, kite me. So I need to keep all my units together, actually. To be anti-kite, and I need to bring this guy up here. So we just need to go for this trebuchet. We want to say the trick here with this matchup, I believe, is we want to save our Blood Knights to charge once the Pegasus lands. This is pretty abusive, not gonna lie, it's pretty abusive. I need to be able to land. Get out of there, like I'm totally surrounded. Yeah, this is really sleazy, like, really, really sleazy. Because I can't land. I can't run from them, can't land. Getting sleazed. So abusive. So abusive. We might be able to beat this though. If we can knock them all down to the ground, I have backup because I have all these extra heroes. I have to get this one though. See if we can get him. Tie him up, tie him up. If I can get all of these things. Let's get back here. Yeah. So I can force him to the ground if I can get all these heroes in here. Get down here. See, this is why you need the potions with your lords. Because of you might run into this kind of thing. Get in here, guys. Get in here, fight. I don't have any more healing left. Get in here, guys. Just want to cycle, just get the terror going. I don't want this many units tied up with them. Tied up with this lord, this is way too many. I mean, we might be able to win this. It's going to be hard, but with these sleaze tactics. But I think we can do this. Potentially. Let's get over here. Alright, he's running. Try to cycle these horses out of here if I can. Pop a defensive pot here. Alright, let's just kite them to the end of the map. Okay, they're getting scared because I'm charging them. If I can run them off the map, then they're not going to be able to run. Okay, sweet. He's done. Did we get him? Got him. Oof. Oh man, it feels so good to beat that sleazy tactic. I mean, it's pretty cool. I'll give him credit. It's pretty cool. It's thoughtful. You know, it's really trying to abuse the mechanics. The fact that I don't have any ranged units, that I can't field any ranged units. It was cute. It was cute. I'll give him that. I was a little frustrated, obviously, in the moment because it's so good against a flying lord with vampire counts. Because I can't. The thing is, I can't land. Like, there's no button to land with your lord. So if I get caught out in the air like that, if I can't drop down onto something, then you know I get surrounded and killed. So unless I ran like 5 Vargeist or something, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get that. Even with 5 Vargeist, I think they would still beat me. So it was just a pretty... It was an innovative tactic. I'll give them that. It was innovative. If I would have... if I just had this vampire on the ground, though... Yeah, the problem is there's not a button to land on the ground, like unless you attack something. And then if that something runs away... Like, what I should have done, ideally, is just send my vampire straight for these mounted yeomen and just kept chasing them the entire time so that I was on the ground. Because if the Pegasus Knights come down on the ground on me, then I can attack them with everything in charge. So, yeah, I mean, it was the Blood Knights, so I didn't have 2 Blood Knights there. I was 100% going to lose that. But because I had such a huge bonus against these Pegasus Knights, and he doesn't have anything, gets a bonus versus large, then it's a problem. Now, these guys did some pretty good work, but I had the shields with the Graveguard. These guys are pretty resilient to missiles. These guys are pretty resilient to missiles. So we ended up pulling out the fight. It was interesting. I can't say I've ever seen a fight like that before. I thought for sure I was going to lose it. As soon as I lost my lord, I thought my army was going to break. But because I have so many heroes, they have the Encourage spell, or the Encourage ability, so it helps at least mitigate some of that loss for losing the Lord. And these guys, I guess, have really high morale, so they were able to hold in there. I mean, they weren't killing that much. Like, they were surrounding, and they were trying to kill these Blood Knights as fast as they can, but they don't have armor-piercing damage. Even though I wasn't able to get a lot of charges in on them, I still get the plus 24 versus large. So that's still more than they're going to get. If he had, I'm trying to think of what he could have done with that composition. Like, obviously I like flying units, right? Like, I like, in my Empire, just using those wards to fly around and harass. I think that's great. I just didn't take it to that extreme, and it's really because it's just versus vampire counts that he did that, which is clever, but it feels exploitative. And the reason is because I can't land, and I don't have any ground-to-air units. I don't have any missile infantry. This is another reason that I always say run missile infantry. I've had some people question, you know, in the comments, and for good reason, because missile infantry don't usually get a lot of kills, right? It's like, well, you know, they got maybe 20 kills or something. It's not a huge deal. This is why you run missile infantry if you have it. So they can't come at you with just a horde of Pegasus Knights or Gyrocopters or just even flying lords. You have to have a counter to that. You have to have something that's ground to air to counter their air game against most factions. So obviously I didn't have that option with Undead, but this is why I always run at least 2 units of archers, sometimes 3, depending on the matchup. Trying trying to think of what else he could have done. I mean, if he was just going full-on cheese, he could have maybe gotten rid of, like, one... I don't know. I mean, his strategy of kiting with the mounted yeoman so that his Pegasus Knights didn't land was pretty good. It was pretty innovative, it was pretty creative, it was pretty interesting. I'll give him credit. It was frustrating, like I said, in the moment, mostly because they just were able to snipe my lord without my lord landing. That felt exploitative. But the fact that just flying around harassing things is a good viable tactic, and I think that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of what else he could have done with this. If you want to try this on your own time, he could have maybe put in, like, some spears or men-at-arms in a corner or something. But then again, my Graveguard are going to be able to run that down. I don't know. I think ultimately he just wasn't going to be able to win this. Not with that composition. I mean, it's great for killing the Lord, and that was a good job. But I don't know how he cleans up both Graveguard and Blood Knights with whatever he has left. Because these cost so much money, and they're just really not that combat effective in terms of sitting in combat and fighting. Like, they're good at cycling charges. But to have this many... to go all in to make sure you get the full surround on the Lord really exposes you when you actually have to fight. So when you're actually having to fight Blood Knights and Graveguard and stuff like that, you're really exposed. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. Interesting idea for sure, but I'm not sure there's much more he could do with his execution. He didn't have anything that was going to be able to take out my Banshees or my White King to finish the job. Because these aren't going to be able to beat him. Leoncoeur is good, but also, I mean, these are large units against Blood Knights. I really think you have to have men-at-arms, and you just have to have a way to micro around. Honestly, don't know how you beat this as Bretonnians. Like, it would be tough. Like, this matchup would be really tough. I mean, that's why I designed it that way, right? Because these will beat up the men-at-arms, and these will beat up anything else, basically. And these are just pretty good, solid fighting heroes that cause terror. You notice in the fight, if you watch carefully, that these Banshees were causing the Pegasus Knights terror. The way I was cycling around, running around with them, they were getting scared and running away every now and then. So, pretty solid. Okay, but thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. This was definitely an interesting match. I've gotten a lot of interesting matches lately, so this has been a lot of fun, a fun time, a fun patch. I did only use 3 Lords of Potions. Honestly, they didn't even really come into play that much. I used 1 potion on a Lord. I would have used 1 here if the fight would have gone much longer. But it was interesting. So check out the other videos. We have lots of great content on the channel. I have some episodes now for everything except... It's everything except for Chaos. I haven't done Chaos yet in multiplayer. I will try one of those out soon. And we have Legendary campaigns going for everything except for Chaos. And they're pure campaigns if you're joining us for the first time, which means that I don't abuse the auto-resolve system, I don't assassinate lords on the campaign map, and I don't do any other shenanigans or tomfoolery that give me an advantage over the AI. I also take on deliberately challenging fights a lot of times. I deliberately take on challenging fights sometimes to get my modifiers in a row there. You know, sometimes I'll see some streamers just sit around and wait for reinforcements or just wait to hire a few more units or just kind of turtle out in their town and hang out. And that's totally viable. That's a good strategy, but I think it makes for a much more fun viewing experience if I just go for those really dangerous fights sometimes. Sometimes I lose them, you know, but I think that we're in a pretty good position in the campaigns. I think we're still on track to win. But, you know, it does bite me sometimes with my kind of aggressive posturing and aggressive attacks occasionally. But I think it makes for drama. I think it's a lot more fun, I'll put it that way, if there's drama, if you lose fights, if the viewer's not going to be sure whether or not you're actually going to win the fight. So I try to foster that as much as possible without being like dangerous or reckless too much in the campaigns. We still do aim to win, and like I said, we are still doing very well, but it's a different style of campaign than I think what a lot of people might be used to. I also do a whole lot of in-depth analysis so that you can apply the ideas that I suggest in my campaign to your own. Not necessarily copying, although you're welcome to do that if you want. But just think about them. Just think about, well, I never thought about those skills in that way, or I never thought about how that tech tree might interact with this unit composition in a certain way. So I'm much more analytical than I think a lot of other streamers that I've seen are. So I think that's really cool. I think that people who really love strategy games would enjoy that. So do check it out. It's good fun. It's interesting. And if you watch a few videos and you enjoy them, consider liking, subscribing, telling your friends, commenting, just even watching more videos. Anything you can do really helps out a ton, and I greatly appreciate it, because I think there are a lot of people out there that would enjoy the content on this channel. They just may not know that I exist yet. So anything you can do to just indicate to YouTube that we have good content here is just really tremendous, and I appreciate it a ton. It helps out so much because I'm still so small. As I've said before, if you subscribe to a channel that has 100,000 subscribers or something, that's cool. They really appreciate that. I'm sure they truly do. And you get notifications when they post new videos and all that. That's really good. But statistically, it's not going to make as much of a large difference as it will if you subscribe to my channel, because I only have 100 subscribers and change right now. I'm still new and growing, so it makes a huge, huge statistical difference. YouTube already knows that those content providers have good content, right? Because they have 100,000 subs. They're not sure about me yet. I've only been around for a couple months. They're not sure if my content's worth viewing yet. And so if you like it, if you think it's good, just interact with the video any way that you can. Let YouTube know that it's good content, and then other people will be able to search and find the kind of content that you're finding here. So thank you very much for anything you can do. I greatly appreciate it. And stay tuned for more episodes. I'm going to be doing a lot more multiplayer, because it seems to be something that people on the channel really enjoy. So let me know what you think of this build. What do you think of vampire accounts in the current patch? What do you think of this composition against Bretonnians? What do you think of the Bretonnians composition? I did think it was sleazy in the moment because he sniped out my lord, and because of the game mechanics, I can't land with the Pegasus or with the whatever steed that I had, the vampire steed. So I thought it was a little sleazy, but I do think it's clever. I want to give him credit. It is very clever. It's very interesting. I think it's a neat tactic to explore in more depth. So what do you think about his strategy? What do you think about mine? What do you think about the vampire counts overall? Do you think it's okay that I've lowered it to 3 lords instead of 4? Do you want to try to get me to lower it to 2? As I said, if I keep winning more and more, I'll slowly scale back the lords, but I'm not the best multiplayer for Total War Warhammer. I haven't played a ton of games. I've only played, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20. A little bit less, but as I get more comfortable with micro and matchups and things like that, I might be able to scale back and handicap myself by not running as many of these lords. But that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure broadcasting for you. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had a wonderful time, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful evening.